Avoidants are experts at leaving relationships and moving on quickly, or at least appearing to. They can end things, go silent, start dating someone new, and seem unbothered by the loss. But there's a type of connection that avoidants can't actually break even after they leave, even after months or years of distance. This isn't every relationship. Most connections the avoidant can leave and genuinely move past. But occasionally they encounter someone who creates a bond that bypasses their usual defenses and embeds itself so deeply that no amount of distance or time can fully sever it. Here's why certain bonds remain unbroken for avoidants even after they've left, and what makes you impossible for them to fully move past. You saw them completely and didn't run. The bond that avoidants can't break is with someone who saw their full defended, flawed, wounded self and didn't leave. You saw their patterns, understood their wounds, witnessed their limitations, and you stayed anyway. Not out of desperation or low standards. You stayed because you saw the person beneath the patterns and believed that person was worth the patience. This experience of being fully seen and still valued is so rare for avoidants that it creates a bond they can't replicate or forget. The being seen creates a reference point the avoidant carries forever. Every new person gets compared to the person who saw all of them and stayed. Most people either don't see through the avoidant's defenses, or they see through and leave. But you saw everything and chose to stay, which proved their core fear wrong and created an experience they can't forget. The bond also means the avoidant knows they can't hide from you. With most people, they maintain their defended persona. But you knew them too well. You saw past the defenses to the scared, wounded person underneath. This level of being known is terrifying, but also deeply connecting, creating a bond that superficial connections can't match. You loved them without trying to fix or change them. The unbreakable bond is with someone who loved the avoidant as they were, not as they could be. You didn't make your love conditional on them changing. You loved the actual person in front of you, limitations included, while maintaining boundaries about what you'd accept. This acceptance without enabling is rare and creates a bond the avoidant can't find elsewhere. The love without fixing showed the avoidant they were valuable as they were. Most people either don't know them well enough to love them, or know them and love them conditionally based on improvement. But you loved them knowing their patterns as part of the full package of who they were. This unconditional positive regard is something the avoidant has likely never experienced before. The acceptance means you're the person the avoidant feels most themselves with. They don't have to pretend to be more emotionally available. They don't have to hide their need for space. You accepted their authentic, avoidant self, which created ease in being known that the avoidant doesn't feel with people they have to pretend for. You created safety they've never felt before. Despite their patterns around avoiding intimacy, you somehow created safety the avoidant had never experienced. Maybe it was your consistency when everyone else was unpredictable. Maybe it was your calm when everyone else was chaotic. Whatever you provided met a need the avoidant didn't know they had, and experiencing that safety created a bond they can't break because they've never found it elsewhere. The safety allowed the avoidant to lower their defenses in ways they typically can't. There were probably moments where they were vulnerable with you, where they shared things they don't share. These moments of lowered defense created deep connection because vulnerability always does. The avoidant might have retreated after, but the bond formed in those vulnerable moments remains. The safety means you're the person the avoidant thinks about when struggling. When they're scared or overwhelmed, part of them wants to reach out to you because you're the person who made them feel safe. They might not actually reach out, but the impulse reveals the depth of the bond. You triggered their deepest fears and deepest desires simultaneously. The bond that won't break is created when someone triggers both what the avoidant fears most and wants most at the same time. You made them feel things intensely, which scared them, but you also made them feel understood and valued, which they desperately want. You offered real intimacy, which terrifies them, but also genuine acceptance, which they crave. This simultaneous triggering of fear and desire creates an internal conflict that keeps the avoidant psychologically tied to you even after leaving. The conflict between fear and desire also means the avoidant is constantly pulled back to thoughts of you. When they're feeling lonely or disconnected in new relationships, they think about what you offered that they couldn't accept. When they're feeling safe and defended, they think about what they had to give up to maintain those defenses. This back and forth keeps you alive in their mind because you represent the thing they both run from and run toward: real connection. The simultaneous triggering also created intensity. The avoidant can't replicate with people who don't trigger them as much. They might date people who are safer, easier, less demanding. But those relationships lack the aliveness and intensity that your relationship had. The avoidant is learning that not being triggered feels boring, that safety without depth is empty, that avoiding intensity means avoiding feeling truly alive. This recognition keeps them bonded to you because you represented an intensity they can't forget, even if they couldn't handle it. You didn't chase them when they withdrew. Paradoxically, part of why the bond is unbreakable is because you eventually stop chasing when they withdrew. Most people in the avoidant's life either chase endlessly, which allows the avoidant to take them for granted, or they leave immediately when the avoidant withdraws, which confirms the avoidant's fear of abandonment. But you did something different. You gave them space when they withdrew, but you didn't chase, and eventually, you left with dignity when the pattern became untenable. This response created a bond based on respect rather than desperation. The non-chasing also meant the avoidant never got to fully devalue you. When people chase, avoidants can tell themselves those people are too needy or desperate, which makes it easier to leave and not look back. But you weren't desperate. You had boundaries and self-respect. You showed them you could survive without them, which made you more valuable in their mind. This value based on your strength rather than your need is part of why they can't forget you. Your eventual departure with dignity also created a different kind of ending than the avoidant usually experiences. They're used to being the one who leaves or being left by someone angry and hurt. But you left calmly, clearly, without trying to hurt them or make them feel guilty. This dignified ending means they can't villainize you or tell themselves you were the problem. They're left knowing they lost someone valuable because of their own patterns, and that knowledge keeps them bonded to you through regret and recognition of what they lost. You represented their last best chance at real relationship. For many avoidants, there's a relationship that represents their last best chance at something real before they fully resign themselves to their patterns. You were the person who was most compatible, most understanding, most patient. You offered the best possible conditions for the avoidant to work through their patterns and build something healthy. But they couldn't or wouldn't do the work, and losing you means losing their best shot at real partnership. This recognition that you were potentially their last chance creates a bond they can't break because letting go of you means accepting they'll probably never have that opportunity again. The last chance quality also means comparing everyone to you reveals how special what you had was. Every new person falls short in some way. No one understands them like you did. No one accepts them like you did. No one creates the same safety or intensity or ease. The avoidant is learning through comparison that what they had with you was rare, possibly unrepeatable, and this recognition keeps them psychologically bonded to you even as they try to move forward. The loss of their last best chance also creates existential crisis for some avoidants. They have to decide if they're going to do the work to become capable of relationship so they don't waste another opportunity, or if they're going to accept that their patterns will keep them from ever having real partnership. This crisis keeps them thinking about you because you represent the crossroads where they chose patterns over growth, and that choice haunts them. They can't find what you gave them anywhere else. The avoidant keeps coming back to thoughts of you because they can't replicate what you offered in new relationships. They might find people who are less triggering, but those people don't understand them the way you did. They might find people who are easier to be with, but those relationships lack the depth and realness yours had. They keep searching for someone who offers what you did without the vulnerability you required, but that person doesn't exist because depth and vulnerability are inherently linked. The irreplaceability also becomes more obvious over time. Right after leaving, the avoidant might believe they'll find someone better suited to their patterns. But months or years later, after dating multiple people and finding each lacking in some way you weren't, they realize you weren't replaceable. What you offered was specific to who you are, and no amount of searching will find it elsewhere. This recognition that you are unique creates a bond that can't be broken by new relationships because those relationships just highlight what's missing. The search for replacement also exhausts the avoidant emotionally. They invest in new people hoping to feel what they felt with you, but it doesn't happen. They try to create the same safety, understanding, and acceptance with others, but it's not the same. Eventually, they recognize they're measuring everyone against you and everyone is falling short, which keeps them bonded to you even as they're physically distant and involved with others. The bond exists in their body, not just their mind. The unbreakable bond isn't just psychological, it's physiological. Your presence regulated their nervous system in ways they don't fully understand. Being with you calmed something in them, or excited something in them, or stabilized something in them. This bodily response to you created a bond that exists below conscious thought. Their body remembers you even when they're trying to forget, and this somatic memory keeps pulling them back. The body-level bond also means certain things trigger thoughts of you that the avoidant can't control. A smell, a song, a place, a time of year. These sensory experiences bring flooding back memories and feelings associated with you. The avoidant can try to use logic to move on, but their body betrays them by continuing to respond to reminders of you. This involuntary response reveals the bond is deeper than choice or will. The physiological bond also includes the avoidant's body remembering what safety or excitement or aliveness felt like with you, and missing that feeling in new relationships. Their nervous system knows something is different, something is missing, even if they can't articulate what. This body-level knowing that something was special with you keeps them from fully bonding with new people because their nervous system won't let them settle for less than what they experienced with you. What this unbreakable bond means for both of you. For the avoidant, this unbreakable bond is both comfort and torture. It's comfort because knowing you exist and that connection is possible gives them hope. But it's torture because they can't be with you, either because you won't take them back or because they still can't do what relationship requires. They're stuck with a bond they can't break to someone they can't have, and that liminal space is painful. For you, knowing the avoidant can't break the bond might provide validation that what you had was real and special, but it shouldn't make you wait for them or hope they'll come back changed. The bond being unbreakable doesn't mean the relationship is sustainable. They can be forever bonded to you while still being incapable of healthy partnership with you. The bond and the relationship are separate things. The unbreakable bond also means you'll likely hear from the avoidant again at some point. They might reach out during crisis, during loneliness, during moments of clarity about what they lost. But you need to assess whether anything has fundamentally changed, whether they've done the therapeutic work necessary to be different, or whether they're just pulled back by the bond without having developed new capacity. The bond pulling them back doesn't mean reconciliation will work unless real growth has occurred. Why they think about you during every major life moment. The unbreakable bond means you become the person the avoidant thinks about during significant life events, even years after separation. When they get a promotion, part of them wants to tell you. When they face a crisis, they wonder what you'd say. When they experience something beautiful, they wish you were there to share it. This automatic turning toward you in their mind during important moments reveals how deeply you're embedded in their psychological landscape. The thinking of you during milestones also includes imagining alternate timelines where you're still together, experiencing these moments as a couple. The avoidant fantasizes about what life would be like if they'd been capable of sustaining the relationship, if they'd done the work, if they'd chosen you over their patterns. These fantasies aren't productive and they don't change anything, but they're involuntary and they reveal how much the bond with you still shapes their inner life. Your presence in their thoughts during major moments also means you've become a standard they measure their life against. They wonder if you'd be proud of them, if you'd approve of their choices, if you'd be happy for them. This internalized version of you that they consult during important decisions shows that even though you're not physically present, you're psychologically present in ways that influence their life. The bond created a connection that transcends physical presence. The future they imagined with you haunts them. Part of why the bond can't be broken is because at some point in your relationship, the avoidant allowed themselves to imagine a future with you. Maybe it was brief, maybe they immediately shut it down, but there was a moment where they pictured a life together. That imagined future exists in their mind as a path not taken, and it haunts them every time their actual life feels empty, or when they're with someone who doesn't measure up to what they imagined with you. The imagined future also included a version of themselves that was healthier, more capable of intimacy, able to sustain real partnership. They pictured who they could be with you, even if they couldn't actually become that person. This aspirational self that existed in imagination with you is painful to remember because it highlights the gap between who they could be and who they actually are. The bond keeps them connected not just to you, but to this better version of themselves they couldn't actualize. The lost future becomes more painful as time passes, and the avoidant watches you potentially move on and build a life with someone else, or build a beautiful life alone. They're seeing the future they imagined being lived, but without them in it, and that's devastating. The bond means they can't be indifferent to your happiness or your life trajectory. They care about what happens to you even though they're not part of your life anymore, and watching from a distance what could have been their life is its own special torture. They can't recreate the emotional intimacy you achieved. Even in moments of vulnerability with new partners, the avoidant recognizes the intimacy doesn't match what they had with you. You reached a level of emotional connection that they haven't been able to recreate, partly because they're more defended now having been hurt by losing you, and partly because the specific alchemy of who you both were can't be replicated. This recognition that the deepest intimacy they've experienced was with you creates a bond they can't break because they keep measuring all intimacy against what you achieved together. The unmatched intimacy also includes the specific way you communicated, the shorthand you developed, the way you could read each other. With new partners, the avoidant has to start from scratch, explaining themselves, building understanding, creating connection. But with you, that understanding already existed. You knew them. You could read their moods, understand their needs without extensive explanation, know what they meant even when they couldn't articulate it. This ease of being known is something they can't find elsewhere. The irreplaceable intimacy also means the avoidant feels lonelier in new relationships than they did with you, even though theoretically they should be less lonely when actually partnered with someone. But being with someone who doesn't know them deeply feels lonelier than being alone. The bond with you set a standard for what real intimacy feels like, and settling for less than that standard creates isolation even within relationship. Why the bond doesn't mean you should wait. Understanding that the avoidant can't break the bond with you might feel validating, but it shouldn't translate into waiting for them to come back or hoping time will change them. The bond being permanent doesn't make the relationship viable. They can be forever connected to you psychologically while still being fundamentally incapable of the relationship you need. These are separate issues. The unbreakable bond also doesn't mean the avoidant is doing the work necessary to be different. They can think about you constantly, miss you deeply, recognize what they lost, and still not be in therapy or working on their patterns. The bond pulls them toward thoughts of you, but it doesn't automatically motivate the hard work of healing attachment wounds. You need to assess their growth through actions, not through the strength of the bond they feel. Most importantly, your life shouldn't be on hold because someone can't break a bond with you, but also can't show up for you properly. You deserve someone who wants you and can be with you, not someone who wants you but can't overcome their patterns. The bond the avoidant feels is their burden to carry, not your responsibility to wait for them to figure out. Move forward with your life, knowing that you created something meaningful enough that they can't forget it, but also knowing that meaningful bonds aren't enough without the capacity to sustain healthy relationship.